All right, we are recording. Okay, today's topic is from doer to thinker, and how we came up on this specific phrase is about like moving mindset shift from the small websites to the larger enterprise websites, and like how SEOs need to make that mindset shift, because definitely we need to stop just like doing on daily basis all these SEO audits, all these like technical things, and start more thinking. So I'm very happy to have my guest Roxana Stingu, who actually have huge experience starting doing SEO as a on the small websites, and then moving to the huge websites as a head of search. So welcome, Roxana. Very nice having you here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so let's go deep to this topic, because it's very hard to make that shift once you are doing for a few years on SEO for small websites, where you basically every day, every week doing like some small SEO audits, doing some technical things, and you are approaching your website and like fixing almost like every page you have. Then, as a natural next step, you're enrolling more more SEO's positions that are handling bigger websites, and then that is a moment when it's basically like you're blown away, because you can't do everything you want for the website who is having like 1+ million like pages. How, what kind of mistakes you see as like initial mistakes when this shift happens in the SEO specialist like consulting world?
The biggest mistake is to have that small website mentality and try to apply it to a big enterprise website. So your work needs to shift from thinking, oh, I can just manually do something, to how do I create an automated process to do this? Because you go from, let's say, optimizing content on a handful of pages to having to optimize content on hundreds, thousands, millions of pages at once without you actually having the time to do it one by one, because it's impossible. So here's where you kind of go from being reactive, just doing the little things that need done, putting out the small fires that happen around you, to being more strategic, to thinking about how do I do this at scale? How do I do this so it lasts in time and I don't have to keep going back and optimizing or doing things for it? And I think that that's the biggest mistake, bringing a small website attitude to a big one.
You know what I'm seeing across like my clients when they are in this moment? They attach and like they identify themselves on daily basis, like how many tasks I have done on daily basis. And then like if it's like 10, 15, that's perfect. And now they are moving to the position where they need to do less tasks, but more strategic tasks, which means they need to have more time just to think. But it's very hard to to make this like, like it seems easier. I will do just like more tasks than just like I will take 1 hour about like to think what would be how to detach ourselves from that identity who is like just doer on daily basis.
It's yeah, I mean, I'm talking about it about this as if, I'm mastering it, and I'm not. I've needed help from my colleagues inside my company that told me, you know what, take the day off, stop thinking about everything that's going on around the business that you need to fix now. Just take the day off, shut down your computer, go outside, take a walk, and think about the next 3 year strategy. Right? Like they had to tell me to do that. I had to literally shut down everything and now work for a day to be able to put myself in a mindset where I don't react to every alert. I don't want to answer every email with a question, right? Like I'm just in that mindset of let me think about this in time, what would happen. And I think the biggest thing that worked for me at least was, instead of thinking, as you said, oh, I have these 20 things I need to do, it was to think, what's the one thing that gives me the biggest value, the biggest return on investment, and think about that. And once you start thinking about that, you then think, wait, actually, I can do this other thing, gives me even more than this one. It's even bigger. And you keep going and you keep going. And all of a sudden, I had a 3 year strategy because I kept going for 3 years, right? So it, it's that. Stop thinking about, oh, I have to solve all these problems, all these people asking me to do stuff. If those are small value things, they might be big value for those individuals, but if you think about the big picture, what are the company's goals? How do those compare to that? Like, you have somebody saying, can you do this report for me? And you're thinking, well, your team contributes 1% of revenue to the company goals, it's small. I can instead help this other team in the same time that contributes 30%. That helps us more reach those goals, right? It's just an example. I'm not saying you shouldn't help everybody, but prioritize and go for where you see the more value, and stop spending all that time on just ticking things off a list without thinking, are they actually contributing to that value?
Because definitely when we need to think more strategically, then there is like the most common like place where we need to check something is like, okay, where my company is getting the most money from, like, and then like you're focusing around like money paths, because that can help you actually to at least like focus if you don't know like where to start, to be like more aligned with the business goals, with the revenue. That is something that like even your company wants you to work and like make some strategy things. But like these ideas for strategy, like it's so contradictory, but like and like we can see like the best ideas we didn't get like through the searching to the like like working. It came like, I don't know, we made a small like break, went for a coffee, went for a lunch, and just like we didn't think about the work. We did think about something else, but just like idea, like something is happening in the background and just like idea happened.
And
So
that has a scientific explanation that I'm probably
yeah.
not going to do justice to, but passive thinking, which is when you do something else, but your brain in the background keeps processing information and working on problems, and that's how you solve problems, scientifically speaking. And I think our, I don't want to say our generation specifically, but in the past 10 years maybe, we're doing less and less passive thinking because we have all this technology around us that keeps us actively paying attention to it. So then we have fewer opportunities for us to give our brain that time it needs to process things in the background. We're always watching TV, we're always on a phone, we're reading a lot more information because it's so readily available, but that keeps us actively paying attention. Our
Mhm.
brain is busy with that activity. If I'm thinking about my parents, my mom used to cook or iron or do things around the house. She never had a TV or music or anything. It was just her with her thoughts. And a
Mm.
lot of time I would kind of catch her gazing somewhere where there was nothing because her brain was God knows where, but she was doing the work she needed to do. That gave her that passive time for her brain to solve problems, right? And that's just one example, but this is why it's important to shut down your computer and just
Mhm.
go out, do something that your body knows how to do naturally, like take a walk, because you can walk without thinking about it, and just let your mind wander. But that allows your brain to passively solve problems you might be thinking of.
Yeah, and not be on the phone scrolling, because definitely we are actively getting new information, so we are not
So it
doing that.
work, right? Because you
Yeah,
see something and you're like, oh, she got married, congrats, right?
yeah,
Like, you're paying attention. You're not, you know, just
yeah.
kind of mindlessly scrolling. You are reading what you're looking at.
And that is crucial a moment like from the doer to thinker, because we constantly uh, 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 are focusing on, oh, let's do more things and then I will have time to think, but like it's not working. So we really need to practice giving ourselves some free time, because definitely when you're growing to the corporate ladder, like all people who are on the higher positions, like they are not there by, like hardworking all day, all night, just like doing small tasks. They are there because they develop these more skills for the leadership positions, where definitely strategic thinking is one of them.
Exactly. And I remember as I was more of a junior looking at higher up bosses, like 3 levels away from where I was, thinking they don't really work much. But now I understand why. It's on purpose. They have to not work much by my definition of work, which was do, because they have to think. So they are working, but in a different way that to me at that point, it didn't make sense. I was like, why aren't they doing what I'm doing? But they're
Hmm.
not supposed to do that. They're in a different place, supposed to do different type of work that I just couldn't understand at that point. And there's ways for people to be able, because you said you don't have the time, you need to make that time, and you can. One of the things you can do is delegation. You get to a point where, and especially if we're continuing with this comparison of small website, big website, right? On smaller sites, you might be the person who goes on the CMS, does certain changes. You're the person who implements certain things, right? On a big website, you don't have access to production. You have to delegate to a development team. You have to ask a developer to do stuff for you. You might have a team of your own around you, and you have to trust that they can do some of the work you used to do, so you can kind of free up this time to start thinking about things more and be more strategic and think about how will things unfold 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now, even further, versus what's my list of work for tomorrow.
And it's great that you mentioned delegation, because here, what's the trigger is, if I delegate something, I don't have as control as I could have for certain things. So how you are dealing with that? Like, because if you are delegating, then definitely you are in less in control.
It's it 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 probably makes sense for some people to micromanage because it gives that control. But that's why I said you have to trust that it can delegate. So sometimes you take a leap of faith if you're working with people you haven't worked with close enough to know their full range of skills. But other times, you know your team. Like I know my team because I've grown my team. So I know what they're capable of. So I can just say, okay, you know what? I'm sure you can do this. And even if I think I know them really well because we work together so long, they still surprise me and they still do better than I thought they would. So my best advice in this case would be allow people to surprise you, delegate.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And definitely, besides delegation, the next thing is also prioritization. But now it's the issue, like, how should I prioritize? Like, because before we were prioritizing like some, I don't know, small big tasks depending on like wins or something like that. But now it's totally different approach how we are prioritizing tasks on daily, weekly, and like project basis.
It's of course you prioritize based on value, but that value could be different things at different stages. Initially, as you start, you think everything in SEO is a priority, and that's the value you give to it, everything, right? But then you kind of grow and start realizing, well, if it's not really making money, then maybe the priority is to do SEO in a way that makes us more money. And then you kind of start tying those things back to business objectives, and the people you report to have start changing their interests. They have different interests as you kind of climb up in ranks. So you go from reporting into maybe a marketing manager person, let's say, that's more interested in just get the traffic in and then somebody else's problem to convert it, to actually it is your problem to convert it. Even if you're still working in SEO, you go from just get traffic to let's get traffic that is very relevant and converting for us, because all of a sudden you care about these business metrics that most of the time just end in revenue.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So you
And also,
prioritize by revenue
yeah,
always.
yeah. And here is what I'm seeing also, because like these larger websites, they have different like PPC, SEO departments where like they're working like even like with the different teams, different vendors. And then it's kind of like we we're stuck in our thoughts because we don't want to stand on someone else like those, like how to actually encourage that communication with other departments. Usually that is like ppc or like any other analytics tracking department. So because we are working together for that like specific goal, so we really need to communicate between like each other how we can help a company to grow.
In my experience, what could work, and I'm not saying it's going to work with everybody, it depends who you're working with, but if you come up with a bit of a more holistic strategy that covers not just SEO, but it covers a strategy that gets you to the goal of the business, where SEO is a part of it, but then paid marketing, e-commerce, everybody else is the other part of it. I think when you put a strategy like this in front of those people who are in a similar position like you, just different areas of the business, they they see it and they're like, okay, so this is what each one of us has to do for the strategy to work to get us to this goal that we're all trying to get to anyway. So sometimes it's not easy for you, especially if you're an SEO person, to do the whole strategy. And this is where you get the other people and you sit down and you say, right, this is the goal, this is where we are, let's all pitch in and see what can we do to get here, and then based on everything that was pitched, let's see how can we help each other make that happen. So you don't only think of, oh, I do SEO, I don't do anything else, and that's it, because that's not going to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's SEO has a lot of transferable skills. We work with a lot of data, which is great to help e-commerce and marketing in understanding some of their actions and how what impact they have. We have access to web analytics and we know how to use it, and normally we use it to assess SEO performance, but we can use the same skills to assess conversion and see where users are going through the website, where is it failing, so we can help with the kind of e-commerce path in understanding that. So this is just one example, there's so many where SEO skills can help all the other departments in achieving that common goal. So
Mm-hmm.
working together makes perfect sense in this case if everybody's working towards one goal.
Yeah. And you mentioned like these skills. What kind of skills you did need to acquire from for example, working on a small websites versus skills that you really need to gain when you are working on the larger enterprise websites?
Oh, here's where it gets personal. I think the biggest skill I had to work on, because I wasn't really skillful in it, it was communication. Because there's a point in every SEO's career, and the people who didn't get there or they passed that point won't agree with me, but the people who are on that point, they will know what I mean. Where you're like, I know everything about Google. I understand how everything works. I created this 100-page audit of awesomeness of things we need to do on this website. Why isn't anybody talking to me? And because of that, we start arguing with developers. We don't have a good relationship with product. The business maybe is not giving us the resources we need. And it all comes down to communication. We're communicating our needs wrong. That's what it is. So I learned, instead of saying we need to do this because Google said so, here's 100 pages, in saying here's the top 3 things we can do that get us the objective the business has. So this way people start listening because you're talking their language, and their languages, we all have this big objective we're trying to work towards. So when you present your work as this is how we can get there, they want to do it. When you present it as abstract work Google wants from us for no good reason, nobody wants to do it.
Yeah. And communication, like, and everybody's saying, like, oh, we need to improve the communication, like, let's work on the communicational skills, or like, but like, it's so underrated, like, skill, because it can solve like a lot of problems on daily basis when you are recognizing that you are lacking communication in the needs, in the explaining, especially like with dev team, when you are communicating with business stakeholders using their language to actually show the SEO impact in the business. language and impact. So it can be, it seems very easily, like, like we know communication and like we know how to communicate, but it's so, in the end of the day, we see like how much we are lacking. So how did you, and what kind of like things you did to improve your communication to actually cover all these things that you need?
First of all, I got my ass kicked a lot of times because you learn best from own experience. I started
Mm-hmm.
paying more attention. Like if I had very successful colleagues that managed to get their agenda done, I started kind of not just listening to what they were saying, but how they were saying it and trying to understand what did they do different from what I would have done because they were successful and I wouldn't have been. So I just started paying more attention pretty much, or everybody around me, what they were doing. Then just learning, there's so many articles out there and there's so many things around SEO, but on soft skills and not necessarily technical skills, including on how do you present SEO value to stakeholders in a business and things like that. So reading more of these, they started becoming part of my natural day to day. So this is an evolution. This is not something you read 3 articles, you watch 2 people, and next day you're perfect. It's definitely a lot of practice to get there, but it's worth it because otherwise you bring that small website mentality to a team that works on a big website and you're just going to clash all the time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we didn't mention yet these like presentation like about the value and things that you are working to the higher management who is not understanding like SEO terms. And like what did you notice the difference between even just like presenting monthly SEO reports or just like any kind of presentation from the like presenting small websites thing tasks, future things versus enterprise level?
So one of the things that whenever we hear communication, we think, oh, it means about forming clear sentences or writing grammatically correct or whatever. That's kind of what we think of on, and that's what we focus on. But that's wrong. It's also how can you talk about something to somebody else in a way that's clear to them, not to you, right? So this is where, if we're talking about C-level, you don't go discuss technical details of SEO that only you and your team understand and maybe a couple other people from other departments that are more technical. But this C-level person, they're in that thinker space. They don't have time to read and learn about all of these details. And they also don't have the mental capacity to retain all that information if their brain is busy processing strategy for many, many years. So you kind of start simplifying reporting. You go from the 100-page audit to one slide that says, do this, money, right? I'm kidding, of course. It's not that simple. But you start focusing on what's the one thing you think they will care about most, and that's what you talk about. So you're still getting the same things you needed, but instead of talking about SEO, you talk about the thing they care about, where SEO can maybe get that. And
Mm-hmm.
then they pay attention, they listen, they want to get it done because it fits in their thinking, versus you disrupt their thinking with all your SEO terminology that means nothing to them at that point and have no value. So that's one thing that, I start simplifying my reporting. They don't need all this information. Do they really care about bounce rate? No, they don't, right? So you just tie the very top level information to the objective or the kind of the goal
Mm-hmm.
that you're trying to reach in that discussion, and that's all they need to know. And then if they do want details, they ask.
Mm-hmm.
So I sometimes put an annex with some more information just in case they ask about something specific. I might as well pull another graph that helps me explain it because it's easier to visualize it than just listen to me talk about it.
Mm-hmm. And like what I have noticed here, insecurities are coming into place because we were thinking before that actually, as much as I bring, like as many SEO recommendations I'm bringing, like it's better, like because if I'm just like focusing on few, like that's not enough. And that is like very hard to overcome, just like thinking it's enough, like you don't need to bring to higher stakeholders like 20 SEO recommendations, like five it's enough for the next like few months. If they are having a big impact, like that's enough. But like, like SEO is always trying to impress clients, higher management by bringing more and more, like let's bring Excel sheets, let's bring presentation, let's bring like everything. And then like you need to cut everything that you knew. And now I'm bringing just like five things, five PPC slides, like my body is shaking because like it's not enough. Like it can be enough.
It's I think it's in human nature to try to sound smart. So we're going to use big words if we can, or to try
Mm-hmm.
to show that we are the best in what we're doing. So we're going to give a lot of detail from our niche that nobody understands, because then it means we're the professionals. And even if we're, I'm trying to find like a comparison here that would work. But again, I'm just going from that small website to big website mentality. We on a small website, we do everything manually, and there might be some repetitive work. We still do it anyway because we want people to see how hardworking we are. But if you're working hard on things that could be automated and save you that time to work on better things, are you hardworking or are you a bit stupid in the way you're working? I don't mean to offend anybody, but this is what goes through my mind. Every time I do something that I've done before, I'm thinking, why am I wasting this time? I know how to do this. I've done it many times before that I'm mastering it. I'm really good at it. Now, if I continue doing it manually, I'm just being stupid, wasting my time. So I find a way to automate it. And that's what happens with bigger websites. You can't do things manually anymore. You start automating. And when it comes to communication and language, you can't really automate language, but think about it. If you go into a room where you have two rocket scientists, right, and one of them talks to you about rockets using all the fancy terms and physics things and stuff you've never heard about, so you listen to them for 10 minutes and understand nothing, and then the other one is able to present the same components and same things by using comparisons in real life with things that you actually can understand, who do you think is the smarter person between those two? Is it the fancy spoken person or the one that was able to take something really complex and dumb it down to the point where it makes a lot of sense for you and brought value to you? So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what we need to translate into our SEO, our reporting, or auditing. Don't just go full details on everything, because you're going to sound like that pompous rocket scientist that nobody understands. And, I wouldn't want to listen to that person twice if they
Mm-hmm.
made me
Mm-hmm.
feel bad the first time, right? It, you're smarter when you say less and in a way that's clearer to everybody, because then you bring value to them. They learn something or they understood something and they want to talk to you again.
Yeah, and you are using your own capabilities in the right way. And like, and it's such a big topic, like working hard, and like a lot of people are emphasizing that. But like, I would just ask, like, what working hard means? Like, does it mean that you are, like somewhere like doing like hard work on the some, like outside, or like, is it hard if you are sitting in the office in your chair and you are like thinking like how you can hard how you can work hard, like is it just like working 12 hours per day? but but that means that something is off if you need to work like so much and like you're not seeing the right progress.
That's the problem. You can work 20 hours a day, but if you're not really progressing, as you said, you're not getting too far, you're putting in a lot of time doing nothing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or you can work 2 hours a day and complete so much you felt like you really worked hard that day,
Yeah, yeah,
even
yeah,
though
yeah.
you put in a lot of time, right? I'm if anybody checks out my description on X, on Twitter, I say I'm constructively lazy, and I tell everybody I meet to be lazier, because if I
Mm.
see somebody who works hard, I always say, you're working too much. You shouldn't be doing this kind of stuff all the time. Here's a solution for you to automate it, and then you can use that time to do whatever. It could be more thinking. if that's what you need to do and that's the place you are in your career. It could be more time with your family instead of working long hours, and the same amount of work still gets done, but you have more time with your family. It could be that you're learning new things at work, so you're occupying that time doing new things instead of just doing the old things again. And people at first laugh. It's like, what do you mean be lazy? I'm not lazy. I'm a hard worker. But then when I explain what I mean by it, they're like, oh, yeah, why am I working so hard? Right. So it's that mentality that you have to shift and think, am I doing this, which is a lot of hard work with little value? Let me just automate it and move on to something else that has value. And in time, that value comes from your strategic planning and less from ticking off things on that list of to do.
Yeah, and lazy people, they are perfect for new ideas how to automate, how to optimize things,
How
because
to
like
not
that,
work.
yeah, how to not work, and it helps so many like other people. Okay, for the end of this conversation, do you think that something it's kind of like important? I don't want to like put so many information and just like overwhelm people. I think like as much as we are focused, that is helping more. So just like if we didn't cover something that is very important for like these mindset shift from small websites to larger enterprise websites.
I think, we can talk about it from all these different points of view, and we can be here for a whole day just dissecting it all piece by piece. But I think what it comes down to, the one thing that people need to take away from this is to always think about who your audience is. I think that helps a lot. If your audience is a developer, go be technical because you can. You're
Mm-hmm.
speaking the
Mm-hmm.
same language. If it is your manager, manage up a bit and try to be helpful because that's probably what they need for you to anticipate some things and do some stuff that they don't have to ask of you. If you're the manager, right, and you're reporting higher up, think about uh, business goals and the value you and your team and your work is bringing, because the people you're reporting to, that's what's on their mind. And if you're the one doing the C-level presentation, just remember, you don't need to be there sounding smart. You need to be there giving value somehow to those people. And you don't do that by adding too much detail that they don't care about. You do that by telling them, as clear and simple as possible how you can help get to their objectives. So just take that away. Just always think about who's your audience. And as you grow in ranks, you will have to change your behavior to match that audience. And you will go from just let's get stuff done to why are we doing things? Let's see if it makes sense. So you're more from a doer, you become a thinker.
Yeah, I really love it. Just like stop doing and start thinking.
Pretty much.
All right, I really love this. Thank you so much for joining this call, and I hope I will see you in one of the next episodes.
Thank you as well for choosing to talk about this. And yeah, see you soon, maybe.